Welcome to the lecture on variable versus constant. So by now we know what is variable and what is constant. So let's do a comparison between the two and let's try to understand if you have to define a variable or a constant, or you have to differentiate what is the difference between both of the two. So this lecture will help you understand that. So I'm in the materials, variable and constant, example 17, variable versus constant. Let's look at the deliverables and also the logical flow. So there's only one file we'll create. We'll understand what is the difference between variable and constant. Okay, let me quickly create this file. Okay, so let's first understand what were the differences we have seen so far. So for this, I'll create a simple documentation for us to type. The first one we saw is no need to use $sign to use the constant, right? We use a method called define to define the constant, not a $sign. So constants are defined only via the define method, right? We even saw this. Value can be assigned only once. Okay, that's for constant. And constant has global scope. We haven't seen this, we'll see it now. And can access anywhere. And constant method can be used to access the constants. Thus we have seen. We will see the global scope now, and also we'll see some of the differences. So we say name is equal to John Smith. We're defining a variable here. And we'll define a name. And we'll say echo $name dot, right? So it's very good example for you to summarize most of the points. First is, how do you define a constant? You use define. How do you define a variable? You use $sign. How do you assign a value to one variable? You use an assignment operator. And how do you assign a value to a constant? You use a method called define. How to print them? For variable you use $sign. For constant you just specify the name of it. Okay, so let's try to change it. Able to change variable but not constant. Let's try this out once more time. That's basically the major difference between constant and the variables. Right, so let's run this file. Localhost right. So you see the Walter void is basically coming up from the variable that is changed, but the constant, even we try to change, doesn't change. Well, that's the difference between variable and constants. Let's look at the global scope. So let's say I write a function print constant, very simple, and I use the echo to print the variable and a constant, and I'm going to call this, and let's see which one is going to print out. And remember, $name has a local scope. So you see only John Smith is printed. So let's do a break here. Right, so you see only the constant is printed but not the variable. That's basically the name constant has a global scope. You can call it from anywhere. You can even do this constant name, right? It works fine. So you can use the method as well to call the constant, or you can use a constant name as it is. Well, that's all for this differences between variable and constant, and I'll see you in the next lecture.